think I'm good with the props.
Yeah. Oh shit.
Jeez.
Good job. You're tough Irishman, man. That take more on TV to take Pat down.
You want to sit here?
4 dudes and 3 stools.
I had a joke like that once, but I can't talk about it.
You guys ready?
Yeah.
Ready to go. Ready to rock and roll.
Welcome to the Barry's Boxing Podcast. This is your host, Kenny.
Hey, Coach Pat.
And we finally got him, Pat.
Yes.
We got our celebrity in the house. Richard Slone. I know you've seen him. If you've ever seen a photo of a promotion fight that it looks like really great pastels, or like if you just got like a really good paint and just threw it on the wall and it landed perfectly and it looked like Canelo, that's him. And I guarantee you, if you're a boxing fan, you've seen his artwork.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure. It's an honor to have you here.
Well, firstly, thank you guys for having me. It's an absolute honor to be here. Thank you for the kind words, Kenny. And like I said, it's an honor. I've known Pat for many years now, and nobody comes with a better reputation. It's to me, it's the middle of the night. Usually I'm sleeping at this hour. I don't see Vegas at these hours, but for Pat, anything, and I'm glad to be here, so thank you.
Thank you. So, tell, do I have a good representation of our other guests as well?
Yeah, I'm Bill Dumas. I run a website called Fight Night Las Vegas, and we feature all Richard's products, his paintings, his posters, his up and coming events that are, new events that are coming to town, and you can visit us at fightnightlv.com or Fight Night Las Vegas if you want to spell it all the way out. .com, either one.
Okay, we'll definitely put that in our thing, and then I'm gonna show photos of his artwork right now, so they know exactly who you are. Cause
Very cool. Yeah. Thank you.
One of the most memorable ones that I have is when is the Floyd Mayweather Pac-Man one. Well, that's the obvious one, but it's the De La Hoya when he's wearing the red shorts.
Yeah, okay. I think that was De La Hoya and maybe Mayweather, I think.
Or De La Hoya Pacquiao.
De La Hoya Pacquiao was another one. That was a Ring Magazine cover. And I've done quite a few things for De La Hoya. Some originals that he owns, I think in his house in Pasadena, and some stuff in his office. And Oscar's been a friend and a supporter for many years. And it's just... it's an honor. He has a lot of stuff that hasn't been seen by the public, but the pieces that have always gone across very well. So I've been very blessed, and thanks to guys like you in the boxing community that we get looked at as an outcast. But when it comes down to it, we're all family, man. The boxing guys stick together. We do get up and come and help people, and what Pat's got going on here today with the Golden Gloves and stuff like that, which he does quietly behind the scenes, and what he does with the youth. The same with the artwork. It just I inspire some young kids, I hope, and I don't know, for you to see the De La Hoya pieces and enjoy that, it's a common ground.
Yeah, and the De La Hoya piece is honestly something from like, I'm 26, so that was maybe when I was like 13.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
and I know exactly.
Kids.
Well,
kid.
I painted it when I was 6. Seriously, that happens a lot. People come up to me and say, I can't believe, I have paintings from when I was a kid, and I'm like, well, you've got no hair and you got gray hair, man. I was like, how old am I?
So if you how did you get started in painting? Because you're at a point where like it's a Richard Slone art piece and people could distinct that. How do you go from how did you start that process of painting?
I've always loved boxing, and my first ever prize of arts was I was about 4 or 5 years old when Rocky Balboa came out, which I guess was late 70s. I was born in 74. So I made a Rocky Balboa hat after I saw the movie, and it made it out of cardboard, put some pipe cleaners on there, and my grandfather smoked a cigarette, the tobacco pipe, and won the competition. And ever since then I was enthralled with boxing and art. I started going to the gym at an early age. Boxing saved my life. I was on the wrong side of the tracks. I signed a deal with Joe Frazier, moved from England to the US, and we didn't have internet, TV. We didn't even have hot water. So the only thing for me to do at night times was to sketch and draw, paint. So I'd train in the daytime under Joe's tutelage. Much like Pat, he saved a lot of the kids in the community, and I'd do it at night times. And my first ring magazine, I think, was '96. So that was 6 years after living with Joe Frazier. So it took a little while to get noticed and get published, but I've been doing it for as long as I can remember.
How good were you at boxing when you made it to the point where you got to if Joe Frazier called you, you must be doing something right, you know?
I was doing pretty good. I was going through the British rankings pretty good as an amateur, but more so than that, it was just the personality that Joe and I had, and a friendship and a bond, and there was just a chemistry there where we could shake each other's hand and say, hey, you know what, I'll train you and I'll fight for you, and let's give it a good shot. We just had that, and I'm sure Pat gets fighters that way, where you just know there's something special connection with the kid. So Joe and I had that. It's hard to come across. There's only been a few other guys in boxing I've ever had it with. So it was really more of a personal relationship, and but you know, I could hold my own in the boxing ring, but you know, I certainly, you know, would never have been a world champion. It's, you know, it's not, and I lost desire for it after a while. I just, you know, I started working with Emmanuel Stewart and Kronk, and doing more business stuff there, and I was like, well, you could sit in air conditioned.
These are legendary people you're talking about.
Yeah.
Joe Frazier.
Don't let that, what he just said, skip you. Emmanuel Stewart, the great Emmanuel Stewart.
So, but I promised Joe that I wouldn't box with Emmanuel, so I just did managerial stuff with Emmanuel. We'd make fights. We worked with, you know, Lennox Lewis's entire career. I did 8 years with Lewis.
Were you part of his camp?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yep, right up until the Klitschko fight, the final fight in LA.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I got a funny Lewis story. This one time he comes here, and then so the two parking spots next to here are Pat and Don's no matter what.
Right.
Doesn't
They
matter
say
who it's-
reserved.
Right.
They say reserved. And Don does not play about that. She doesn't care who it is. Seriously. So then this one time he parks here, and he's like, in a 2000, like, a brand new kind of like, they just pull up and like, I'm coming in. And this was early because I opened up the gym sometimes. And then I'm like, hey, you can't park there, but he had just cut his hair.
Yeah.
So that's a different
Look.
Lennox Lewis, you know?
Yeah.
And also, I was maybe like 15. So I knew who he was. I'm a fan of boxing forever.
Right.
But that's a different, and I'm like, hey, you can't. I'm like, you can't. And he gets out the car. I'm like, whoa, who's this? He's a stature of a man. And then, and his entourage is just as big as him. Don't forget about that. So it was maybe like 3 people get out. They come in, and I'm like, hey, before anything, I just want, before the owners come here, you think you can move? He's like, oh, I'm just here to say hi to Pat and Don. And then he was like, and then what? So he came in, and then I was like, yeah, but you gotta move. He's like, okay. And then he leaves, but he left kind of like with a sour taste, you know what I'm saying? 'Cause I was telling, but I was serious. Dawn does not play about that. Cause she came in, she was like, I don't give a fuck who you are. He leaves, and then remember that night he came back maybe like around 3 p.m.
Yeah.
And then he's like, he comes in, and Dawn's like, oh look, let me introduce you to somebody. And I'm like, look, it's Lennox Lewis. And I'm like, oh my God, I just told him to get out the spot, and he got angry earlier. And I was like, but that's,
well, you know, Lennox doesn't hold grudges like that. So if he did catch him, he probably was maybe his bodyguards or his security guys that were with him. Lennox is a pretty cool guy. Like he's he'll and loves amateur boxing. I think, you know, obviously he made his fortune and fame in pro boxing, but what he gives back to the amateur community, he's got the League of Champions now in Jamaica. And just like Pat and Dawn, he's about the community, man. He's you know, so you parked in the wrong spot, man. You don't park at a Barry spot, man. And you just don't do it. Don't do it, champ. Don't do it.
I just hear you kick out, man. So many people just for that reason. But it was so funny because when he got out the car, I was like, whoa, that's one of the biggest humans I've seen in my life, and he can fight.
More than a little bit.
Coming back to some of the things you said, so when you're working for Emmanuel Stewart, how was that experience? Because when you say that name, that rings bells in everybody's ears.
It was fantastic. I was living in England in the 80s, and when I was 14, I think it was 88, I'd been in contact with Emmanuel somehow over in the US, and he had Leon Zababa fighting for the WBO championship, and I also had Duke McKenzie fighting Gabby Canizales, who Pat may remember out of Laredo, Texas. So I worked with Emmanuel in England in the late 80s, and we formed a friendship and a bond that continued until his passing, which next year will be marks 10 years. And absolute gentleman. We've shared lots of laughs together, lots of fun times. We've had some stressful times, with some losses and fights and just things in life. But he's one of the true. He was one of the true characters of boxing, and showed me how to be a gentleman. And his legacy continues through his nephew Sugar Hill, who's training Tyson Fury right now. I'm starting to work a little bit as a co-trainer just to kind of keep their legacy going between Emmanuel and Smoking Joe, and pass on a little bit of knowledge, because you can't let, as Pat's doing, you can't let the old ways die, because you got to keep it going, man. It's our obligation. It's not about the money. It's not about anything else. We were taught by certain people. I'm sure Pat's got people in his life. We owe it to pass it on. We were taught it for nothing. So I'm glad to be passing Emmanuel's legacy down a little bit. Smoking Joe's down. There's lots of other guys' names that are not so famous, but to me they're equally as important.
And his tutelage over.
Exactly. Yeah. Just you got to keep it going, man. You got to give back to the kids. You got to keep it going, because otherwise their ways die. And guys like Pat and Dawn, what they're doing, and other people around town doing the same thing. People around the country doing the same thing. And that's what makes boxing such a great community.
How'd you feel when Tyson Fury went to the Kronk Gym? Because that was an announcement, you know what I mean? He could have gone to a lot of places, but he stuck to the yellow shirt, and he went for it.
Well, with Andy Lee being at Kronk, and I was looking at my emails a couple of days ago, and I saw, it was 2002, we had our first email from Andy Lee. Came from Limerick Island, and saying, would Emmanuel look at this kid? I said, send some tapes over, we'll see. So Andy had already been at Kronk for a while, and Tyson got balls of steel, man. He showed up on his own in Detroit. He's a white guy out of Manchester, England, or Morecambe, even a smaller area than Manchester, just a countryside kind of guy, but a fighting man, just used to street fights. But he showed up in Detroit. Didn't even know Emmanuel's address, jumped in the cab, said, does anybody know anybody, Emmanuel Stewart at Kronk Gym? Take me to either address. And the cab driver knew the Kronk Gym. He went there, it was closed. He said, Emmanuel Stewart's address, or can we find somebody? Make some calls. Showed up Emmanuel's door, knocked on the door, said, I'm Tyson Fury, the next heavyweight champion of the world. He said, I've got it here from England. Please take a look at me. And I got a call. I was in the Riviera playing blackjack, and
man's man.
Yeah, and I got a call from Emmanuel, and he said, the guy from England just showed up here, man, a crazy guy, a big giant of a man. He said, and we just got through doing the gym work. He said, this guy can really fight, and he gave me his name. And now Tyson and I are really close. He's proven himself, and I said, Emmanuel, it's what I've seen. I'm not super impressed, and I'm just being honest. And he said, no, you can really fight. He's going to be somebody, Richard. And I remember hanging up the phone, I think, Emmanuel might not be right on this one, but and now we see why he's in the Hall of Fame and I'm not.
Right. When you saw that was Tyson Fury in 2003, you said?
I'd be forgetting the exact year. No, 2003. It probably was closer to 2004, maybe even 2000. Yeah, probably 2004.
So he had a handful of professional bouts already? Or he was still amateur?
I think he'd had some fights, because at that time he'd had that one notorious fight where he hit himself with an uppercut, and that's what was going through my mind when Emmanuel was telling me, there's this guy, because all I'd seen is that internet thing where he threw an uppercut and hit himself with it.
And he's beating up the guy. You can tell he just threw the uppercut for like flamboyancy, and then he straight to his face.
Yeah. So that's all I was misinformed, man, by a bad 5-second highlight film. And now Tyson's gonna kill me for telling the story again.
Come with a Kenny.
Yeah.
But not only, so what else can you tell us about, like, when Tyson Fury? So he basically came back when he came for the training camp for the Wilder 2. that was his comeback to the Kronk gym. It wasn't like the initiation.
Well, the Kronk gym in Detroit has been gone. The original Kronk gym has been gone for some time, and then it's kind of the brand of Kronk has been floating around a little bit, but the lone survivor of the real legacy is Sugar Hill.
Correct.
And so Sugar's taking, much as Emmanuel did, the Kronk brand on the road. Emmanuel traveled to the Poconos to train Lennox Lewis. He traveled to Puerto Rico to train Miguel Cotto. We trained out here for many fights. Different Prince Nazim Ahmed, Lennox Lewis trained out here.
Which Ahmed fight did he train him for?
He trained him for I think it was Cesar Soto, which was in Detroit, and then he had a fight in England against Paul Ingle. And then the Barrera fight, which we were training Lewis for Rahman first fight, and Naz wanted to train in Palm Springs. So Emmanuel and I were taking private jets daily to Palm Springs. There was another trainer who's God bless his soul, he's no longer with us. Oscar Suarez was the chief trainer basically, and they just couldn't get sparring partners to go to Palm Springs. So the Barrera fight with Naz was probably at 70%,
Oh, really?
60% maybe.
And right before the Barrera fight, he fought my son-in-law, Augie Sanchez.
Augie Sanchez, yeah. And I think once in a while they still speak or on FaceTime or something. I remember, or maybe I talked to Naz when he got into the Hall of Fame. Hell, it's 5 years ago now, but I remember him saying, "Where you at?" And I said, "Las Vegas," and he asked about Augie. So and I'm pretty sure he said he'd been in contact with him once or twice. So.
Oh.
It's good to see how old fighters,
It's a bond.
the nemesis in the ring, but once that bell rings, man, they become best friends for life. There's a bond there that I don't think other sports have that. I think maybe police force, maybe the Marines, but the boxing, maybe football. I think maybe some football guys that went into trenches together, so to speak. But the amount of respect here that Naz has for Augie and all these guys. Certainly a gentleman's sport.
Yeah, the Barrera fight, that was Nassim's first loss.
Yeah.
Do you think because in the beginning of the fight, remember, Augie was doing pretty good.
Yeah.
So do you think Barrera might have seen some highlights, or do you would it count some of that to you saying that he didn't have that much sparring and he was at 70%?
It's really hard to say because in boxing, unlike many other sports, you can't have a bad hour and get away with it. I mean, if you're playing football, you have a bad hour, you can still get a Super Bowl ring. Like everybody else plays well, but you didn't. You can still be the winner. In boxing, if you're not on, you're getting booed out the arena, and that's what happened with Naz. He just wasn't on that night. I will never really know the reasons. Emmanuel feels he didn't prepare himself correctly.
Okay.
I felt that, we're speaking in past tense now with Emmanuel, but Emmanuel felt he never prepared himself correctly, and Naz was vulnerable. That's what made him so exciting, and a skilled amateur like Augie Sanchez with a great background and could take advantage of some of Naz's weaknesses, but ultimately Naz's strengths, which was power and just that blazing speed and unorthodox punches, it pretty much got everybody he came across until Barrera.
And he was a crazy showman.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He had a show, and he came in, he would come dancing. I'll never forget, he would always come out with cheetah things. That was, when you think about him, you just come in with, when he would do the front flip off the top rope. You see amateurs now, because I'm also a judge. Sometimes you see amateurs still trying to imitate that, or you still see people doing the macho Camacho thing. He's one of the few people that kind of transcend and still try to imitate the flashiness of him. But
It's great. A bit of showmanship goes a long way. People, it's entertaining.
They love it, man.
Yeah.
Yep, they love it, and those that don't love it, if they hate it, then they pull in for the other guy. They pull in for the humble guy. So it makes for great boxing, great fights, and I think we've got the sport of kings and queens, man, sitting in front of us, and we're really honored to be a part of it. I certainly feel I am. So
when you first painted their photo, because you did a Dawn's photo.
I did, yeah. Dawn Barry, who was the first lady, I understand, inducted into the Nevada Hall of Fame, very deservingly. I believe she's going to be on the ballot for the International Boxing Hall of Fame, which would be a huge huge accomplishment, not just for Irish boxing, but also for the city of Las Vegas. I mean, they've done so much here. So I just think it's a matter of time before, their story. And Pat's so humble, he wants to give everybody else the credit, but it's teamwork here, that what they've done, and the world needs to see it. People know, but it's just, it's it could be a reality show. I mean, it's just so
Don
much.
honestly ran boxing from when I started coming here. I've been at the gym since I was 13 till right now. I've never left.
Yeah.
I've been here forever. Dawn was already on top of the game, like doing it, and then she was already on top, maybe like 20 years at that point, if not more. Just running boxing. We would do back then. There used to be shows. I would honestly say that back then there was more shows. That has nothing to do with Dawn. It was just basically more to do with boxing.
Yeah.
It is dying down, the sport of amateur boxing, but the people that are keeping it alive, which is honestly Dawn and Pat, they should get the credit that they deserve.
I agree, because everybody else in town, ultimately, and there's no disrespect to him, because I'm the same. I'm going to paint a painting that tries to make money. I'm a capitalist, so I understand it, but to give back, and that's kind of why I'm getting back into training right now, even though it's on a professional level. It's not at all for the money. It's to be able to to do the give back. It's for me. It gives Joe Frazier's legacy a little. It's my thank you to them.
Yeah.
And that's what Pat and Dawn have been doing. In their minds, I'm sure they're thanking somebody doing something. There's a reason why they're doing it, and it ain't fly by night. They've been here so long. They're established and respected worldwide. So, to me, they both deserve to be in the International Boxing Hall of Fame, and they put Las Vegas on the map with stability. Gyms open and close. Everybody knows when you go to Pat Barry's gym, Don Barry's gym, Barry's boxing, you're getting good work. It's a clean gym. It's a healthy gym. They don't put up with any BS. You're getting, the real deal.
That's really what it is.
Nicely said, yes.
Nicely said. You can become a gold member of the Barry's Boxing Center podcast by purchasing a $70 t-shirt package. With this purchase, you will receive one t-shirt. Your name or business name will be featured on our gold member chart. And most importantly, you're helping a student pay their gym dues for 1 month. For more information, contact me at barrysboxingcoachken@gmail.com. And we sincerely thank you.
Thanks.
It's an honor that people know Barry's Boxing for that, like, dependability.
Integrity, man.
Integrity, because a lot of boxing gyms, they're all great. We all teach in the same sport, but they might not be there next year. That's
it.
That's the thing about boxing. They might not be there next year.
Yeah, and they, they'll give you a word, and then they don't stand by it. Where if you get the word of Pat or Don Barry, it's like, you can take it to the bank. So that's rare. That's rare in boxing.
He knows. I've used, hey, I'm with Don Barry to get backstage, front row passes and places so many times.
Man, I'm glad you told me that, man. Next time I go to the fight, I ain't gonna see.
Seriously, be like, hey, I'm sitting next to you with Don Barry, and if they know who you're talking about, they'll be like, okay, where's your pass? I didn't get it. She said she was gonna meet me here. You're in. We have a lot of passes from like the early 2000s. You know the badges that we have? Remember when I was like 19? I used to just sneak into fights. I've been in at least 10 fights where I didn't have a ticket.
Careful what you're saying.
Oh no, it's been more than 10 years. So I didn't do nothing wrong. I just watched it.
Statute of limitations, man.
Statute of limitations. But it works. Trust me. What you said, it works.
Yeah. I gotta admit to it too. I've snuck into a couple of fights in my time.
When you coach some of your fighter right now, what training, what tutelages do you think comes from your teachings? Is it Joe Frazier's or is it Emmanuel Stewart's?
That's a great question. First of all, I'd like to give all the credit for training to Emmanuel's nephew, who is the head trainer there. So I'm playing backup guitar to Robert Plant, man. Somebody. So I got to give Sugar Hill all the credits. So I'm following his lead, but there's certain little things that I see that I'll go to Sugar Hill about and say, hey, can we work on this, work on that a little bit, or what do you think of this? But he's really taking the lead. So I think right now it's more so the Emmanuel Stewart teachings, because Sugar Hill can relate to them more, and I think because it's blood, he actually has more respect for that. But there's also, we're training Ali now, but I'm also throwing a Joe Frazier hook in the mix. So, so we got the best of both worlds.
Very nice.
Yeah, a classic in one man.
There's no better hook than Joe Frazier.
That's right.
And we can say who you're training, right?
Yeah, Nico Ali Walsh, who's Muhammad Ali's grandson. He's turning professional on ESPN August 14th. So there is I think it's Franco and Maloney, third fight or something is the main event. Nico will fight a 4-rounder. It looks like it's got to be a guy with a pretty good winning record, so he's not going to be put in easy.
Okay.
But he's working his rear end off, man, trying to get ready, and he's dedicated. He's got big shoes to fill, but thank God he's not trying to fill those shoes. He wants to be the first Nico Ali, not the second coming of Muhammad. He wants to do his own thing. He's got his own goals, which you need to have. I think you can't try to fill somebody else's legacy. It's he's got his own mission.
Right.
And then that would be extreme shoes to fill.
Oh yeah, impossible. I mean, it's absolutely, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what his personal goals are, but they are personal. But he sat and told me, he said, I have goals here, and once they're fulfilled, they're done. So he's got it in his mind. I don't know whether he wants to get to a championship level, whether he wants to just prove to himself that he has the cojones to get in the ring, because it takes a lot.
Yeah.
I don't really know what his internal goals are, because I never asked him. I just said, as long as you want to fight and it's still there, then we'll give you the opportunity we can.
For sure. And even though he might not fill those shoes, he still has to uphold the thing. You know what I mean?
A lot of pressure on him. Yeah.
There's pressure.
Yeah.
And I was telling you earlier, I've judged several of his fights when he was an amateur.
Yeah.
When Pat and Don used to do the finance at the D, so it was right in front of like the Fremont Experience.
Right.
We used to host fights under this really nice tent, and then
I remember those outdoors, right?
Outdoors,
yeah, behind, yeah.
And he would compete there, and then I judged at least 5 of his fights there, and then I know I did a couple at Richard Steele's gym too.
Right.
And then but he always moved. He was a good boxer. You always could tell when someone has a little flair to them, and he had a little something. And I didn't know I was judging like the grandson of Muhammad Ali.
Right.
Until like maybe like the 3rd time I saw him.
Yeah. And at that point, he was trained really by MMA trainers, so they were focusing on striking and things. But it's a whole different stance. It's like me trying to train an MMA guy. I wouldn't know what to do. I might be able to get you to put a good combination together, stand up, but MMA trainer, I really don't believe could train a fighter, a boxer, and vice versa. I just think that just two different things. One's ping pong, one's tennis. It's like.
One's big. Yeah, I like that analogy. Ping pong with tennis.
And that's what's kind of impressive, that Clarissa Shields, she actually dominated when she went to MMA. Because it's 2 different things.
Yeah.
But that's off topic, but it was, it's cool. And here we have the great Don Barry. Camera shot as always.
The Hall of Famers sneaking in and out.
One day I'm gonna convince her to come on the podcast.
That's your goal. Yeah, that's good.
So, to bring it back to when you came to Philadelphia, how did you said you established a relationship with Joe Frazier and when you were in England, right?
Yeah.
And then you came to Philadelphia and just rolled the dice.
He was doing a tour of England for the Champions Forever movie, which was George Foreman, Larry Holmes. Yeah, they did an interview at Johnny Taco's gym here. But Pat remembers the movie. That was 1988. So they were doing a promotional tour in England, trying to get this thing on the big screen or sell DVDs, VHS, whatever it was back then. And I met Joe at the Thomas & Becket gym, which was above a pub in East London, a very famous gym where the Krays used to hang out, the Kray brothers, notorious gangsters from England. And
the what brothers?
Krays, Ronnie and Reggie Kray.
Oh, okay, I've heard of them before.
Yeah. They ran East London and during the 60s and 70s. So now we're talking 80s, and they said Joe Frazier's coming up the gym, and I thought, it's bullshit, So I kept hitting the bag, and I seen the guy in his Stetson hat blocking the doorway, just in his silhouette. I just kept hitting the bag until the bell rang. Everybody else had stopped, and he said, I like that kid over there. He said he didn't stop for nobody. and because I couldn't even recognize who he was. I just thought it was bullshit. But it was Joe Frazier. We hit it off. He said, "What are you doing later on tonight? You want to come by and have a meal or something, talk?" And he said, "If you ever want to turn professional," he said, "here's my card." He said, "I'll be leaving Tuesday. If you want to fight, call me up." I said, "Can I go Tuesday?" He said, "Have you finished school?" I said, "No." I said, "But I'm ready to go." And he said, "You finish school first." He said, "Then you call me and I'll give you a place to stay and you can fight under my tutelage." So I was 6 months later, I was done with school, and first time ever on a plane on my own, $40, one bag, but a pocket full of dreams, man.
And straight to Philadelphia.
Straight to the hood, man. Straight to North Philadelphia.
From where in England?
Northwest, which is really rural. I mean, I'm a farm boy, so it's I went from seeing sheep to flocks of drug dealers.
That's something. And then you're also going to like Joe Frazier's a tough man. You know what I mean? He's from the tough man gym era. He's from like toughest. When they say about like the old school boxing, you really think about Joe Frazier sitting listening like anonymous. And then so how did that feel? Because that's two different worlds, man. I'm from El Salvador, so I know what it's like to come from like
Culture shock.
A culture shock from going from like just seeing dirt in a cow, and then there's like cities. Like I didn't see this much cement until I was like 12.
Yeah,
so,
it was certainly a culture shock to me too, Kenny. When just to see how tough he was and how strong he was physically. I mean, the guy couldn't bench press probably more than 175 pounds, but he could literally lift the motor of a Cadillac up. Like I've seen him do it. Yeah, just that raw strength, man, from the legs, and it was just a different kind of strength and a different kind of willpower than I'd ever seen in that point in my life. And but again, a man of his word. If he shook your hand and gave you his word, it was a done deal. And so that to me really impressed me. And right until he passed away, I was a pallbearer at his funeral, which in November will mark 10 years. So
2011.
Yeah. Yeah, November 7th, man. I'll never forget it. And I was one of the last few people to see him. He'd been sent home on hospice. He medicated heavily, but he gave me a couple of good smiles, and I asked him if he was all right. He raised his left hand, and now, like I said, now finally 10 years later, I'm able to give back just a small piece of what he taught me. I mean that's why I do it, and it makes me feel really good when I did the Ring magazine cover. People thought it was disrespectful. I had Ali on the ground, like twice. He was getting hit with the left hook and then also on the ground. But that was a payback for me to Joe Frazier. You know what I mean? I owed him that. So, he never thought Leroy Neiman captured him well. So I did it in a Neiman-ish style, and that was a thank you to Smoking Joe, wherever his soul is at.
Wow. Yeah, and it's great that there's so many like tribute videos or like vintage videos of Joe Frazier on YouTube,
Oh yeah.
Like people went out their way to like make things for him. Like might have never seen him. Just boxing fans, just people that like boxing. Just remember I was telling you last week I was watching George Foreman and Joe Frazier.
Yeah.
And then what a fight.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's like so grateful that it's online, because even I would honestly even say 10 years ago there wasn't that much boxing stuff on YouTube.
I agree.
It just started coming up like 2000. Because when YouTube was brand new, I was in love with boxing already. In like 2008.
Yeah.
There was nothing about boxing. There was just kids. It was YouTube stuff. And then I would say like 2015 when PBC and like the other places allowed people to show the highlights on TV.
Yeah.
That's when like it just popped up. And people that probably had things in the shed like uploaded and like recorded, did whatever they had to do to put it on YouTube. Which is great.
Well, it's good you saw the Foreman fight, and I want to throw a little tidbit in there that Joe would never throw in because he was never meant to make any excuses. But there was a time in his career where he was rolling a speed bag and a little piece of the iron shrapnel got in his eye and it messed up his eye. That was, from that point on, considered his bad eye. And that's when his good eye closed in Thriller Manila. Eddie Futch knew the other eye Joe couldn't see out of much because it was his bad eye. So that's why Eddie stopped Thriller Manila. But prior to that, with the George Foreman fight, Joe wore glass contact lenses, which was illegal at the time. But Joe thought he'd be able to, if he could see George, he could maybe land that hook. And he said he got hit with that, just a jab, man, and it was just enough just to pop that contact lens out of the good eye. And he said he lost all depth perception. So every shot that George threw picked Joe off the canvas. And you see he got knocked down 7 times, and he got up 7 times. Yep. But you know, I wasn't there. I don't even think I was born in 73. Well, I wasn't born in 73, but you know, he told me that story, and I have to take his word for it, that he tried the contact lenses and just lost his depth perception. He'd probably been better off just going in with nothing, and then it couldn't have got messed. You know, it would have had a better chance. So he couldn't really see where them shots were coming from, man, and getting nailed by Foreman when you can't see exactly where it's coming from.
And all of them. That's like stepping off a sidewalk and getting hit by
exactly.
Truck.
Yeah, because that's George Foreman. Even in that fight, to bring it up, he hit him a couple times where Frazier like physically moved like an inch or two.
Yeah,
he's one of those.
Oh yeah, he lifted him off the ground with that one uppercut, and both legs at the same time came up 6 inches, man.
You think he's a harder hitter than Wilder?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean Wilder definitely swings really hard, and maybe on one of those punch things you see in bars where all the drunk tough guys want to get to 600.
He knows the number.
So maybe Wilder might be able to get a better number like that, but in real boxing, and as Pat knows, there's just a certain amount of the timing and the force behind the punches. I think George Foreman is probably, I'd say, the strongest puncher that I've seen. I mean, he's just, I mean, what he did with Michael Moore, even at that age, and you see him hit the heavy bag, man, and he put a dent, and this was when they would fill the heavy bags with sand, and he put the dents in them things, you know, this guy was unbelievable, raw strength.
He would have popped those water bags that we just got.
Yes. That's tremendous.
You have any questions?
No, you hit all the bases, Kenny. I think you did a great job.
So,
really feel like I know a lot more about you now than I did when you came in. And I thought I knew you then.
We should record those conversations you guys have in the cigar bar.
Yes.
Yeah, we should, man. Well, anything I can do to help, I'd love to support. Like I said, I'm at the stage now where I'm getting older, and I realize, you know, nobody's around forever, and we got to keep these legacy going. And you see good people like the Barrys doing stuff, it inspires people like me to also give back a little bit. So anything I can do to help Barry's boxing, anything that I can do to any youngster in the Las Vegas community, or in any community, just reach out to fightnightlv.com, and we'll support everything we can. We're boxing to the core, man.
What are you working on now? Like, what's a painting that you're working on right now?
I'm working on a Julio Cesar Chavez. I don't know if I should. Well, we're gonna say it, man, because Pat Barrett gets the exclusives. We're working on a ring magazine of Julio Cesar Chavez. It's probably the first that has been known. So it will be the next month or so. It's going to be a tribute issue to Chavez, and we're hoping for it to be just great writers in it. My artwork will be on the cover, and it should be a hell of an issue. And like I said, I think Pat Barry's got the exclusive on that.
That's cool. Man, so you're working on legit, serious stuff. Are you doing the Wilder Fury 3?
I was, and obviously the COVID situation put everything back. That fight now they're looking at perhaps August the 9th. But my big exciting thing is obviously Nico Ali Walsh turning pro, ESPN August 14th. That's we've got to make sure he's ready. I don't like 4-round fights for beginning fighters. I always prefer a 6-rounder, get the fighter in real good shape, because in a 4-round fight, if you lose 2 rounds, you're done. You know what I mean? Like let's just, you have a feeling out round, you give that away, and then you lose a round, you're not winning the fight unless you stop the guy. Emmanuel loves 6-round fights for guys turning pro. I think I got that concept from him. As long as your fighter's in shape, and you get the right opponent, he might run out of shape. He might win 3 rounds and run out of shape, and you stop him in the fourth, fifth, or sixth. But in a 4-round fight, man, you got to move quick.
Yeah.
Pat's always said that.
Yeah.
Remember you?
Well, I mean, you're saying the 4-round fight is more like the amateur concept.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, right.
Go out there and just go crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
When Pat, remember when we first started training the pro?
Yeah.
Jesse back then, you won his first couple fights. I remember you telling me like this is because I would always just be there hearing,
Right.
and you would always say that it's the same thing as a 3-round fight. It's just one more fight without the headgear.
Yeah.
But you kind of still gotta fight like you're an amateur your first couple of 4-round pro
Yeah.
fights because you're not being judged the same, but the hassle is still there.
Yeah.
When you watch a Golden Glove fight today, there's technique is there, but you see it's like rapid. It's like
Oh yeah,
in and out, in and out. In and out.
Yeah. That's how they're taught now, and that's how you win the fights in amateur boxing. And if that can carry over into a 4-round fight as a pro, then you know the guy who throws the most punches, even if they're not professional style, and then they maybe don't have the power and the ring generalship and all that stuff, they don't count that in a 4-round fight now. So I'm with Pat, and it shows that we're both old school.
Yeah.
We like them 6-rounders, man. Get your fighter in shape and let him turn pro with a 6-rounder.
Another question that I would like: what do you think about Nayo anyway?
I think tremendous fighter, tremendously skilled. There's a lot of guys. I just, I just don't know how.
Division. He cleared the 123 division already.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, he's a superstar. We'll see how far he goes, and let's just hope he's accepted by the American public, and because that's what it's about. Pro boxing is a business and it's entertainment, and you've got to have some pizzazz and sell tickets and sell pay-per-views. So let's hope he has that ability to cross over to be a pay-per-view star.
Yeah.
Which is like Canelo, guys like that have done. Triple G did it.
It's just so hard because Nayo was such a polite. You can see when he speaks, he doesn't really do anything. He shows his disrespect in the ring.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
He's such a polite person. His father is his head coach.
Yeah.
And when he was fighting, one of his first fights in America, I guess they were doing the open training, and Inouye's dad went to go see, and then the fighter's like brother smacked his dad, and then that's the only time Nayo Inoue even like flared a twitch in his eye. He looked at him and he said, "I'm gonna hurt you." He said it in his language. He's like, "I'm gonna hurt you." But they did the face to face and they stopped because the dude really smacked his dad / coach.
Yeah.
Just when he went to look at his open training.
Yeah.
So he needs to. If he could just like buck out, maybe hang out with like Lil Wayne or something.
Yeah.
That's not really gonna get Nayo Inoue the stardom he deserves because that's a star.
That's funny you mentioned Lil Wayne. One of Nico Ali Walsh's best friends is Flavor Flav, and we celebrated July 4th last week with Flavor Flav there, and he's a huge boxing fan. We'll have to get him on the show one day. He's got his own podcast stuff, but he's like a boxing historian and
Flavor Flav?
Yeah.
Bring him out, it'd be amazing.
Oh yeah, he's a blast, man. This guy is one of the funniest, most charismatic guys. I didn't really expect it from him. It was only my second time meeting him, but what a wonderful guy and a supporter of pugilism and very, very knowledgeable. I think he fought amateur and he's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame now, multi-Grammy winner.
Icon.
Yeah.
And if you're from the east side of Las Vegas, you've seen him in like football games. You've seen him at like Boulder Station. You've seen him at what's called Sunset. I've gone to movie theaters and seen him walking around with like a security guard or a couple of friends.
Yeah.
But if you're from Vegas, you've seen him.
Yeah.
That's. I never knew that he was a boxing fan.
Very approachable. He had. He had just some amazing stories, and he's been with Nico. They actually were next door neighbors, so he's known Nico for probably 10 years. So he's really proud to see, and Nico's New York debut, which we're working on a date now. Flavor Flav will certainly be the hype man.
That'd be great. Yeah. So to bring it back to Nico, this is really an amateur show. Our basis is we want to talk to people about how what's the correct term to go into amateur shows. Not shows. What is the correct career path to do when you do like your boxing amateur career? Because anybody could turn pro today. Everyone in this room could sign this piece of paper and we're pro. But
I don't know if I pass the physical, man.
You might pass the physical. I've seen some bodies, man. But it's more about
Give me butterbean. Give me butterbean.
When they're gonna start paying you, do you want to make like $10? Do you want to make like a decent amount of money?
Yeah.
And if you really put effort into your amateur career, you could come out with making a decent living with your first fight. Because most people don't make nothing in the first fight.
Right.
So, how would you say that Nico's amateur career? What was the path?
Obviously, the deal was put together by a boxing attorney, and also a guy that gives back as a non-profit Celtic Boxing Club out of Chicago. A guy called Michael Joyce. He put the whole deal together with Top Rank. I'm not exactly sure what the terms are, but I know that they have a great relationship. Bob Arum's first ever fight was promoting a Muhammad Ali fight. I think it was only Terrell. No, maybe it wasn't Terrell, but his first ever fight was an Ali fight in '66, and to now be promoting Nico Ali Walsh, here we are all these years later. Bob's 90 now, and to finish, that's him. I hope the guy lives to be 190, but to have another Ali back in the circle, full circle, to him means a lot. It's that's like, nice. Yeah, and Muhammad, even in his later years, always told Nico, if you want it, because Nico always had boxing gloves, and he said, you got to see Bob Arum, you got to see Bob Arum, and like stay away from Don King, you got to see Bob Arum. so that was always Muhammad's wish, and when Bob found out about that, Bob said, whatever we can do to help the kid, we'll do, Yes, so with Nico's contract, obviously we can't really go into details on it, but he'll be fighting 3 times before the year is up. He's not looking for any preferential treatment. He's a real humble kid. He's raised by his father as a Marine. I guess he's no longer in the services, but I guess once a Marine, always a Marine. So his father is a Marine sergeant. His mother is Rashida Ali Walsh. They've raised great children with respect that say thank you, yes ma'am, no ma'am. They don't run the streets. They're not in the flesh cars. To be 20 years old, I mean, the kid doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke, he doesn't hang out, he doesn't want to wear the flash sneakers and all that kind of stuff, which I notice you're wearing, Kenny.
I know. They're so comfortable. I'm at the point where I gotta wear them. So comfortable. But if you're talking about these Jordan 12s.
Yeah. Jordan guys, man, that's the big thing.
Pat's Hoka's cost more than mine. Yeah. These are really good running shoes, and if you're looking for comfortable running shoes or like walking shoes,
right.
Hoka brand is the best shoes. You're gonna spend about $200.
Right.
Worth it.
Yeah.
You feel like you're on clouds the whole day. I used to get like knee problems.
As you might be able to tell, I'm not much for running. I ain't even much for walking. So.
But yeah, Pat's the show off here. I'm telling you, he just look nice.
No, but Pat's always a gentleman.
My wife dresses me.
Right.
Any final questions, Pat?
No, I'm really delighted that you both took the time to come out here today.
It's our pleasure, man. We'll do it again, man. And any fundraisers and on the podcast, you've got your website obviously up and running. It's beautiful. We'll put some stuff with Fight Night LV. You guys can do stuff. We'll help raise some money for this great cause you guys have got going, and support you everywhere we can.
Thank you very much.
This episode is sponsored by Royal Cuts Barbershop, located on 6795 West Tropicana, the best barbershop in town.
Hey, my personal shout out to Jose and Izzy, my personal barbers. Remember, you don't look like this by some bum. These guys know what they're doing, so come out and support them.
I told him this earlier. I've been a fan of you, and I've known exactly the art that you produce for years. And if you're a boxing fan, so do you. This is the man. You're gonna know who I'm talking about. We're gonna raffle off if you could sign some things for us, and then that'll be the show. My co-host left, but this has been the Barry's Boxing Podcast with your host Kenny Quandra and Pat Barry, and our special guest
Richard Slone.
No, I know. I was just like, Richard.
Is that who it is?
Richard Slone.
All right.
I thought he forgot.
No, I know.
I thought it was about you.
No, I was gonna say both your names.
Bill Dumas, Richard Slone, and like I said, it's just an honor to be with you guys. What you're doing is wonderful for boxing, and we're gonna help any way we can, man. It's I can tell you guys are good people. Obviously, I've known Pat and Dawn for a long time, and it's been a wonderful way to start the day.
Thank you. And that's been the Barry's Boxing Podcast Show.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode featuring Patrick Barry and Kenny Quadra. Come back often and make sure you subscribe. Don't forget to join us next week for another exciting episode of the Barry's Boxing Center podcast. This podcast was produced by Jose Carrillo, executively produced by Don Barry, and filmed on location at Barry's Boxing Studios.